Welcome to episode 1 of Making Fun, where the rules are made up and the points don't matter, and apparently the schedule either, considering Drew's schedule. Only 2 hours late today.
Hey, it's only like I slept through the Twilight Zone.
When I got up this morning and I seen the text, it said, I'm going to take a nap. Call me at 7. I was like, yeah, he's not going to wake up. So I called once. I was like, I better leave him alone. And then I was like, I'll call him one more time. I was like, nope, he's not getting up. I better let him sleep.
The perks of being a third shifter.
I don't call that perks.
Yeah, that's a warped perk. You sleep through just about anything.
I sleep through just about anything too, but I'm not a third shifter anymore. I can't function that way. I'm some other kind of monster when I'm on third shift. Well, what are we talking about this week?
We said we were going to talk about projects that we want to make.
Okay. Yep, there it is right in my notes. But the first thing I had wrote down is, what are you working on? Apparently, you're working on your naps skills.
You got to pump them numbers up, you know.
Yeah. You got to get your beauty sleep, especially you.
Yes. Good thing you look exactly like me.
You're right. But see, that's why I'm the better looking one, because I get plenty of sleep. You working on anything this week?
This week I got the seats finished and upholstered for Eva.
Cool. So they're installed?
No, they're not installed because I put my foot through the driver's side floor.
Well, that'll happen.
So I cut out the bad metal of that and started welding in a new piece of metal for now. Something I already had for temporary until I could get.
Hey, cut that yawning out. That's not conducive for good content.
Well, man. We needed to get an episode done, and it was a now or never thing.
Yeah.
So
where'd you get the pans at? Did you cut them out of one that you had?
No, I literally bought a small piece of metal. I got a 24-inch by 24-inch piece of standard steel carbon metal, and then I cut it down and have semi-formed it into the pieces that were bad. It's just a temporary fix for now until I can get some pans in and do it the proper way.
Yeah. Do you have any good pans in the other bugs that you have? Because I know that one you're not fixing it up, right?
No. All the other bugs look like the Flintstones mobile.
Okay.
You know that, which is conducive to most of the Beatles from, the classic Beatles. They all turn into the Flintstone mobiles at one point. I think even you used to have one that was a Flintstones mobile, didn't you?
Yeah, I've had a couple, and I like that word conducive. Do you mean conducive?
Conducive. There you go.
I like making up words too. That's okay. Yeah, my 67, it actually had fiberglass inserts in where the floor had rusted out. Someone had replaced it with fiberglass inserts, which are junk.
the fiberglass are junk.
Yeah. Somebody was getting in the back seat one day and they stepped on the floor and just pushed the pan right. It bent and it went straight through where the hole was. They didn't have it tacked in or nothing. Or, everything was so rusty that it was nothing to attach to, I guess. But yeah, pretty much all of mine had holes in the floor. My 70 had a hole in the back, but the 67, it was rotted all along the passenger side and in the back.
I've got two spots. The front passenger side lower hinge area has to be replaced, and then the right behind the driver's door, next to the floor pan. Those are the two bad spots other than the floor that need to be replaced. Those parts I can cut out of one of my other Beetles and weld in.
Yeah.
But the floor pan, I found whole floor pans and I found partial floor pans, and most of that area is good. It looks like water just sat in the floor pan and nobody ever cleaned it out.
Yeah, that floor pans are the worst, and especially in this area.
Yeah, the salt and the wintry mix, and then the heavy swamp-like conditions during spring.
Speaking of which, what's your weather like down there today?
Cold.
Is it? It's like 34 degrees and snowing here.
Well, that's because you live in the Yukon.
Northeast Ohio, you gotta love it. Not.
So what have you been working on?
I've done a few things. Actually, I've got a new video coming up, probably come out Sunday. I made a one-piece yo-yo on the lathe.
Nice.
That was fun. And I have got to use the tool rest that you made me. It works pretty good, but considering it's warped, it is a little bit challenging.
Well, I got a little overzealous with welding. I plan on making another one for you.
But the premise of it works great, because I'm cutting out ladder rungs to build primitive ladders for decoration and stuff, and that way I don't have to keep resetting my tool rest. I don't know if you're supposed to do it that way or not. If anybody watches my video about me using the lathe, you're going to know that I have no absolute idea what I'm doing. But
absolutely no.
Yep. What I said, and then you tried to re-say. But I did that, and
just reiterating.
Yeah, just reiterate my nonverbal skills. That's why we're making a podcast. Another thing I got done this week, it's actually been 2 weeks since I talked to you last.
Right.
Olivia's friend had a guitar that the bridge had lifted up on it, and I fixed that. It was kind of rewarding, because you know how much I love cheap guitars.
Yeah.
And I'll probably make a video about that too, you know. But the bridge had completely lifted up on it, and it was a not composite, laminate guitar. You know, laminated material, wasn't real good wood.
Yeah.
And apparently it set out or something, because all the wood underneath that bridge was just gray and weak. So apparently it had been that way for a while. So I popped the bridge off of that and did the best I could with an X-Acto knife to cut out the bad, and sanded it down and got it glued down. And I ordered some light gauge strings and put on it, and kept adjusting it, because you know, after I clamped it down, the body of it kind of warped down, because the bridge actually pulls up on the body to give it that resonance. So it took it a couple of days to kind of spring back to life. And I just kept tuning it and kept playing it, and it actually worked out pretty good. I was happy with it for a cheap guitar repair.
Hey.
And other than that, I was supposed to have been cleaning the shop the other day, and I ended up making a tablet stand, because we have all these tablets, and I'm always trying to lean it up against a water bottle or something. So I did that. I posted a picture of that on my Instagram, and I'm messing with some fidget spinner ideas. I've been busy, man.
I can tell.
I've been getting into puzzles. I've been watching a lot of puzzle videos, and somebody I was watching is Pocket 83. Have you ever watched any of his videos?
Not that I can think of.
It's a treat. You should try to check that out. But he had made a copper chain just out of copper wire. I made one of those, and I actually watched a couple other videos from other people that make them about how to solder it and to flatten it and everything. I haven't soldered or flattened it yet, but I did make the chain.
Awesome. I watched Samurai Carpenter. That was one that I just ran into.
Yeah, that's a good one.
He did I seen one where he did a kitchen sink out of a rock. Or not a kitchen, but a sink out of a rock, like a bathroom sink out of a rock. That was a pretty cool video. Him and Alex Steele have a thing going on where Alex Steele built a Damascus Japanese wood chisel for him. It's like 4 inches wide, and then he's building a handle for it. That's going on right now.
I seen that, the thumbnail for that, or whatever you call it, about the chisel, but I haven't watched it yet. And I actually did sit down and watch him after you mentioned him on our last podcast. Yeah. I didn't know he was the Austin Powers of blacksmithing.
Yes, he is. He's done a lot of stuff, and he does a daily episode, so he puts a lot of content out, and he teaches classes, and he really has fun with it, and you can tell.
Yeah, he does some good videos, a lot better than mine, so, but that's not saying much.
What else did I do this week and this last 2 weeks? Well, see, I've been working 6 days a week, so it kind of took away from my fun time.
Yeah, I understand that.
And then, Eva got all of her lights put on. They're not working yet because I have to fix the wiring harness. Someone decided, it looks like Freddy Cougar tried to redo the wiring harness. I mean, not dissing Freddy any, but with the scissor fingers, Edward Scissorhands tried to redo it. That's more like it.
It's kind of the same.
Yeah.
Freddy would be a little bit more malicious. Edward would try, but he would totally botch it up.
I think it's more like it was probably a group effort between the two.
Well, that's really bad then.
Well, most of it is that there's pieces here or there that just had wires sticking off the back of it, and everything else was cut off, and then switches missing, and so I went down and pulled the wiring harness out of one of my other ones and got it back and started working on putting that back together while I've been working on the seats and the other stuff. Let's see. I did get the windshield replaced. That was fun.
Didn't you have that last week? Or last time?
No, it wasn't in. I did it last weekend, I think.
Oh, you were talking about doing it.
Right. It was one of my upcoming. I do have the stuff to make a video on that, but realizing that I built my own PC, I have no video editing software.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I would recommend Movie Maker, but it makes my machine crash. And that's all I know how to use is Movie Maker right now. There's other... there's someone recommended something to me, and I can't remember the name of it. I downloaded it on here, but I haven't got to use it. And of course, the computer's not going to come up now.
There's not too many programs that I've had issues with on my computer.
Well, you're not going to have the same issues that I have because I'm working on a laptop most of the time.
Right.
No, I cannot find that now. If I find it, I'll let you know.
I like the convenience of moving or having a laptop to be able to work on and move around with, but I do like the distinction that the heavy workability that you get out of a desktop.
Yeah. Movie Maker works for me. It does everything that I need it to. I mean, there's a lot of things that it's lacking. Let's not mince words, but that's all I know. And I really should take the time to...
Anybody listening to this, if you have some good free programs for editing software, just leave it in the comments below and let us know. We appreciate it. And tell us how to use it.
Good luck with that, man. This one was free. The other one that was recommended. I'm not seeing it. Maybe that's on the other laptop. I don't know.
Brottonism kicking in.
Yeah. Well, it's not
Right.
Brottonism. I'm just not seeing it. I don't know if it's in here or not.
No, you not being able to remember what it is.
Yeah. And we have to clarify what Brottonism is now. Brottonism is my grandpa's family name, and it seems like everyone.
Your grandpa's family name?
Huh?
Your grandpa's family name?
It's your grandpa too.
He had a habit of mid-sentence stopping and not remembering the next word, or forgetting the one word that he needed to complete the sentence, or forgetting what something was.
Yeah, and I do it bad too. I'll be in the middle of a conversation. I'll be well, you know, that thing that does that. Can't think of that word either. So it just stops you in mid sentence.
And you spiral downwards.
I'm not too totally inarticulate as a person, but for some reason I just can't think of the words that I need to say. So that's Brottonism. from the root word Broughton, which obviously means forgetful.
The older I get, the more I feel it.
Man, I can't believe I can't think of that video software. Shut up.
Anyhow, go back. I'll go back to. I got the windshield put in. I seen a tip online on classic VW bugs. It was a YouTube channel. I found it through Google, but it was a quick tip using a weed eater string inside of the gasket. So when you put it in place, you pull the weed eater string and it flips the gasket into place over the metal edge as you go around, and you work it around about halfway to the right, halfway to the left, and go up around the next corner.
I've seen that done with string before, but not weed eater string, and weed eater string would probably be better.
Because of the ability that weed eater string is round, it's decent sized and
it's durable.
Now the problem was I didn't have any weed eater string. So I used, of course, I've always got different types of wire. I had 20 gauge galvanized wire is what I had. It didn't work the best, but it did work, and I was able to get it in. I think it took me, from the time I took the windshield, cleaned the edges off the windshield, put the gasket on, and put everything in place. I think it took me an hour to put the new windshield in by myself. I was nobody there to help.
Yeah, what did you do? Did you like tape it down on the outside and then work from the inside?
Actually, I got it almost in place by putting it in place and kind of smacking the window a few times.
Yeah.
And then I was just able to work with it slowly. That was the thing. I didn't try to rush too much. Just get it started, try to get close to one corner, and then work back and forth. And then I made sure it was in place, and then worked the next corner, and then made sure it was in place, and then the last corner, and then across the top. It worked out real well, though.
Obviously, if it's in there and it's not cracked or nothing. Because if it was me, you know, as soon as I'd set it in place and tapped it a few times, it would have cracked right down the middle.
I did get Eva. I was able to drive her out of the garage and turn it around.
Yeah, I've seen it. You said that. You posted that on Facebook or something.
Yeah, I was trying to. I had to get I had to get the driver's side where I can get into the floorboard so I could cut the hole. and replace where my foot went through it. My foot went through the floorboard while I was putting the windshield in.
No, I bet that was nice.
Yes.
See, if
There
if you
was
didn't put that windshield in, that hole would never have been there because you put more strain on that floor than it's had in probably 30 years.
well, that floor was replaced at some point because that is a replacement panel.
Oh, okay. So the
So
replacement panel is rusted out.
yes, that bug's had a rough life.
Most of them do. Cheap transportation usually gets the brunt of it.
It's fun to play with though. That's the best part. The best part of working, and I do like the fact that the Beetle is something you get to tinker with and play with, and they're not expensive to work on.
No.
That's one thing. Motor parts, you can get into some money with some motor parts, but the rest of it's not normally that bad.
If you're going to build a high performance motor.
Well, like a full rebuild kit, I think with new jugs, new cylinders, or pistons. That's it.
Brottonism.
At its best. I think about $250 for a rebuild kit for one, which isn't bad.
No, that's not bad at all.
Most motors, it's what, $300 for a gasket kit. So,
you're making me jealous because I've got all this work that I need to do to my van, and I've had money allocated for this project, but life is getting in the way, and other emergencies have taken those funds that are allocated for the van project. So it's on the back burner again.
it happens to the best of us.
So what little money I have left, I think I'm going to go out and go ahead and buy me another little stick welder so I can get welding, do something with metal.
Yes.
Before, life takes the rest of my money, I'm going to go spend it on something for me since I can't fix my van.
Stick welder, cheap stick welder. Harbor Freight. It sounds bad, but I mean, their welders normally do halfway decent.
I was thinking about just going down to Menards. You can probably get one for $100 down there with the kit. I mean, I have a helmet and gloves. I don't have any rods.
6011 is your standard rod to start with.
6011?
6011. It's a multi-purpose rod.
See, I had one years ago, and I was just getting the hang of it, and I needed money, and ended up selling it. Don't ever sell your tools.
No.
Someone told me that once. Don't ever sell your tools, and it's true. And unless you have more than enough, or you're not needing it, not going to use it. Like I have some spring compressors. I think about getting rid of those all the time because I buy preloaded springs on struts anymore.
That's about the best way to do it.
And it's not, and you don't risk your life.
I've seen spring compressors break, and that's always dangerous.
I would when we were putting struts on Olivia's car, I was talking to Todd, and he had seen the same video I did. Some guy in India or something like that had this platform that bolted to the wall. It was on hinges, and the strut went inside of that. Like the wall is vertical and the board is horizontal, and the board swung down over top of that strut, and the guy actually sat on the end of that board, undid the bolts, and then gently raised up and took the spring off, and then put it back down and put the new spring or strut in the spring and tightened it down.
Huh.
That was the neatest thing that I've seen. Of course, if he slips and that spring comes out at him, he's a dead man.
Yes. I've done, I don't know how much you've done, lift kits. I've done a couple lift kits over the years, and
I've lowered some Chevy trucks in my time, but never lifted them.
now the question is, when you lowered it, did you use a torch to heat up the springs?
There was a friend of ours that had I think it was a '69 Impala, and that's how we did it. We set up stop blocks under the bumper, then we took and heated the springs until it squatted down and touched those blocks, and that was lowering it.
Hey, that's the old school way to do it.
And with the trucks, it was like the 80 or 80 ish.
80er.
Yeah, 80-ish models. The late 80s models.
Square body.
Yeah, no, not the square body, the one after that. I guess that might have been a 90s. But we did a lift kit up front, and then we just put the axle under the springs in the back.
Okay.
I mean, over the springs. The leaf springs. Anyway.
That's not the normal way to do a lower.
Yeah.
Now, you didn't block your leaf springs either?
I don't remember. I was just helping. I've never actually had a lowrider myself, except for all the vehicles that the springs just collapsed on, and I drove it anyway.
Like the old brown van?
Yeah.
The one I sold you?
Yeah. That one, the spring popped off the strut itself, and I just cut it off with a grinder and kept on going. There's a reason my channel is called Junk Pile-O-Matic. But anyway, what were you saying?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Rottanism at its best.
All right, what are some ideas about stuff that you want to make?
I had a whole list of things that I was going to talk about, and you can start so I can try to remember.
Look under your pillow, because that's probably where they're at. Like I said, I've been messing with puzzles and stuff, and I'm really wanting to make some. Actually, I have some board game concepts. I want to take some traditional board games, and I have a few ideas about updating them or just using different materials to construct them. That's one idea I have. And everybody's making fidget toys and spinners and stuff like that. I have a couple different ideas about those.
That's because everybody likes the fidget toys.
Yeah, I've got one right now. It's my prototype in my hand. I'm trying not to play with it so it doesn't make any noise, but I put that together real quick. I mean, it's dangerous right now. It's got a drywall screw sticking out of the side of it and a little metal bar and everything, but I better not talk about it too much. I don't want to give my idea away yet. Oh, and the one thing that I really want to get done that I haven't really focused on is, I think I've talked to you about this before, but I want to make a tool vest.
Yes, you've talked to me about this.
But I want it to be more like an everyday carry vest, because I'm tired of clipping things on my belt or my belt loops or having it in my pocket. And I found some commercially made vests, and the one that I like best so far is the vest that I like the best. Is
that vest.
Who makes it? Magellan. It's a travel vest. But it looks like an old person vest, so that's not. I know I'm getting old and I'm a grandpa and everything now, but I don't like the looks of it. I like the looks of the Carhartts that just have the two pockets up front, and I'm thinking that like the tool storage that I'm thinking of will be kind of like on the inside, like an inside pocket.
So would you want an inside pocket, or would you want more like the tactical wear, like how you see on the tactical backpacks or stuff where it's like the elastic loops?
I'm thinking a little bit of both, but on the inside to make it look a little sleeker.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
So that way it would be more versatile that way.
I've seen Maybe it was the Carpenter Ninja guy or something. Somebody made a tool vest, and it was pretty good, but it was more for like a construction
The
application.
Samurai Carpenter.
Yeah, Samurai, what I say, Carpenter Ninja. Anyway, but yeah, I would like I could hook my keys on a loop on the inside. That way they're not bouncing around. I don't know. I might keep my keys in my pocket because I have a pretty good system for keeping my keys quiet and easily accessible.
Yeah, I use the old chain driven janitor style key ring thing at work.
Yeah, that has been a staple to my everyday carry since I was driving a truck because you lock yourself out of the truck too many times, 2,000 miles away from home, you learn your lesson. Keep keep a key tied to your side. But that's the reason I do that. But yeah, I would like to make my own vest, but I'm not that great at sewing. But I don't want to order like that Magellan travel vest and just look like a tourist.
That's something to think about.
But that's something I would really like to have. You know, it would have to be lightweight. It would have to carry everything that I carry with me on a daily basis. And there's a few things that I want to add to my everyday carry. And that's another idea that I had the other day. I'm thinking about seeing if I can modify a Zippo lighter to put a screwdriver set inside of it.
So it's not the lighter?
No, it's not a lighter. It's just like the lighter case because it's comfortable. If you have that in your pocket.
True.
You know what I'm saying? And I was thinking if you could put a handle and like a Phillips and a straight edge bit in that, then you would always have a screwdriver with you. I mean, I've got it on a multi-tool, but I'm trying to like minimize and maximize at the same time. Oxymoron.
Well, if you're trying to minimize and maximize, so you're really adding a whole new thing to your set.
Yeah, because I don't have a knife.
So my question is do you want the handle as part of the Zippo case, or do you just
Yeah.
want the handle?
Yeah, the handle was going to be the case itself. I was going to make a socket in the case, so that's a handle, and you just pull the bits out of it.
Do you have a press?
No, I have a vise. Why?
AVE showed a cool thing about how to use a hydraulic press to, I think it was AVE, to cut out metal. And so that's why I was saying if you had a press, I think you would be able to cut out in like 1/4-inch steel, or you could probably do 2 stacked plates of 1/4-inch steel and cut out the holder for the bit. And then you could cut it into the bottom of the Zippo case.
Yeah.
And be able to make it that way, or top, whichever, you know what I'm saying.
Or you could just cut it the size of an insert that slides in there just the same way a lighter does, and you could put the opening at the bottom.
Yeah. That's something to think on.
That I don't know if I've got that in my notes or not. I probably do, but that was just an idea that I had the other day. And it was inspired by a Pocket 83 video because he has a handheld screwdriver that he put a handheld screwdriver. It's not foot-held. Golf ball. He puts golf balls on everything. You need to watch his stuff. He's really interesting. He does a lot of I don't know how to describe it. He makes you think.
Um, okay, so some stuff that I'm wanting to make. Um, I want to remake the shifter for Eva. I ordered a skull off of eBay. No, not eBay. Etsy. Etsy. Um, it's a formed skull, so I'm gonna try to drill out the inside of it and epoxy in the shifter that I make for it. But I'm gonna do a chain link shifter
Oh,
for
cool.
Eva. And then I still want to try to figure out a way to do a rounded resin cover to a chain link steering wheel to make it easier to use without it being. You can still get the style of the chain link with more comfort, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I remember you talking to me about that. That's going to be difficult.
We talked about that. Well, I started thinking about it, and I think that I might end up using what's that silicone form. I think I might end up making a silicone form to hold everything.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. But you're almost going to have to. Well, with those silicone molds, you could cast that, put your chain in it, but you're going to have to be able to hold your chain up off the bottom of it, and you're almost going to have to do like an injection
I can make
for that shape.
I can make a holder that'll hold up the steering wheel off of it with the
Yeah, you could
center
probably hold it up by the
post.
center, couldn't you?
Yeah. So I don't think that'll be as much of a problem as just trying to get it to form properly. But see, I don't know how the silicone works with epoxy or the resin. I don't know how that's going to work.
Yeah, you can pour epoxy in silicone resin or in silicone molds.
Okay.
Speaking of you making that chain link shifter and everything, can I weld chains together like that with a stick welder?
Yes, you can. But see, you got to watch what type of chains that you're welding together. Like you've got galvanized chains, you've got standard steel chains. If something has a galvanized coating on it, when you go to weld that coating on the outside of it is actually toxic to you. It's very, very, very bad for you. So
if I had an old rusty chain, that would be safer, and I'd just have to wire wheel it down to bare metal.
Yes, but something that works great, is that Evapo-Rust. It would be worth it.
Okay.
So you could take like a 5-gallon bucket or something, put your chain in it, use Evapo-Rust to clean all the rust off of it, and then just wash the Evapo-Rust off.
Okay.
And then you could take that and then weld that together. Now, if you're dealing with old rusty chain, and your the black carbon steel is probably going to be the best thing for you to weld with that stick welder.
Okay.
And
even using the 6011 rods?
Yeah. 6011, 6013. 6013 if you're going to have a larger chain. 6011s are...
Well, that was my concern is, because I know it has to be a certain thickness, and I didn't know.
There's guides. I mean, to know to know how deep you need to go in the metal. If it's something that you're not worried about structurally, if it's mostly for the just the look of it, you're just holding it in place for standard weight of the metal itself, then you don't have to worry as much about how deep you're penetrating with it. It's not like you're trying to hold up a car or um, hold a car together.
Yeah, all mine are going to be crap to begin with anyway, because I haven't welded in so long and I never was good at it anyway. But I really want to get into it. There's so many other things that I could do, if I learned how to weld.
Practice.
Yep.
That's once you get it and practice, practice, practice. Guy I know, his name's Max. He's been a fabricator his whole life. Super wonderful guy, and he gives me pointers all the time about. I think I talked about him last time we talked. And he gives me pointers all the time of different stuff and what to do and what not to do in certain situations. And I think it's a blessing when you get to talk to somebody that has such an abundance of knowledge and is willing to share that knowledge just for the namesake of just to talk and to pass it along. And that's the way he is. And he likes people that try to teach themselves, especially when it comes to welding. He'll point you the general direction at the beginning, and then you get to come back. Well, it's doing this. What should I do? And then he'll tell you, and then he won't tell you the next step. He wants you to figure that out.
Well, he's a good teacher then.
Oh yeah.
Some of my best teachers were people that made me do things, because I'm a hands-on learner anyway.
Most people that are makers and builders are hands-on learners.
And half the videos I watch, I don't watch the whole thing. I just watch it up to a certain point and skip around, because I know I'm not going to do something exactly the same way someone else does.
Right.
But you can't learn welding by watching it. You're going to have to sit down and actually do it.
There's some things you learn, the motions to different style welds and the different metals that you're working with. Most all the time you've got you're using a circle motion or funny enough, Max told me a G instead of a straight circle. If you're doing a larger bead, you're going to do more of a G movement with your puddle than you would like on a small weld. You're going to do little bitty circles, or sometimes you'll go with a half moon trying to stitch it more like together.
Yeah.
So you learn with different metals and the different circumstances what you're doing of what you want to do. Hell, when I'm welding if I'm welding something that's actually vertical and I have to I'll weld from the top down. It's easier to control the puddle that way. And then I'll stitch back and forth more than do a full circle, because that way I'm getting the metal to actually adhere better and I can control it more. If you go down up with it, sometimes it'll pull too much on you and your gravity's working against you, and it's hard for you to actually get that puddle to move up.
So it's kind of like painting, right?
Yes.
Because the material's wanting to fall towards gravity, and you can work it down easier than you can work it up.
But that's what it is. You are working with a pool of molten metal to stitch two pieces of metal together. And that pool of metal is what is your whole act when you're working with welding, that you have to make sure that you're manipulating that one little pool to do everything that you need it to do. And you do have to be careful. It is a molten metal and will burn through thin metal if you're not careful, if you don't keep moving.
What's the thickest wire that you could weld with a stick welder?
With a stick welder?
Yeah. Is that possible? Or are you going to burn right through it?
I don't know.
The reason I asked... Oh, this is kind of a segue to another segment that I want to do regularly. Where's it at here? I want to start a segment called "What's It Good For?" because I use so many different things that I find in the trash and I repurpose them. It's basically upcycling, but I think we ought to find odd things and try to figure out something that's good for. And uh, I've got several old spring mattresses that the thicker outside wire. I mean, it's cool stuff to work with, and I think it's also would be good for some tool making, for like forging and stuff like that, because it's very heavy. You have to heat it to bend it into shape and everything. But I was just wondering if that would be something I could weld with a stick welder, but probably not.
Mm, you have to go with a smaller rod than a
Right.
6011. You will need a little bitty thin rod to do that. And see, that's the thing with a stick welder. The difference between a stick welder and MIG welder, and what you run into is you'll have to buy lots of different rods for the purpose of whatever you're doing with a stick welder.
Yeah.
And then you have to adjust your amperage to what you're working with. With a MIG welder, you normally use the same size wire for most things. Sometimes you'll go smaller, or sometimes you'll go bigger, depending on the situation. But most welders, or most MIG welders, you use the type of wire is whatever the MIG welder runs, and then you just go with it. And like TIG welding, you just have the TIG welder, and you have your filler rods that you add. So you have a lot of different style filler rods to whatever you're doing, or a lot of different thickness on your filler rods.
Yeah, if
So,
I had the money, I would be getting a MIG welder, but I just don't have the money right now.
well, I was just bringing up that point that you can do it. It's just you have to have the style or the type of rods that you're going to need for that situation. There are some places where you can just buy one or two rods at a time. So if you're working on something and it'll take you about 5 or 6 rods to do something, you can go just pick up a few rods of a smaller size, and you don't have to buy like a pound of them at a time.
Like, where do you go? Like a welding supply
Yes.
shop?
Yeah. I got a place close to me that's Indiana Oxygen. They have all kinds of gases, welding supplies, and I can go there and pick up a few different types of rods for welding, because you can do stainless welding with a stick welder, and you just have to have the right type of sticks.
Can you solder stainless?
I don't think so. Well, it's not really going to hold it.
Right. It's because it'd be just like trying to solder steel, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Because I had some jewelry ideas I was thinking about using some stainless with, but I was like, how could I get that? And that would have to be TIG welded, wouldn't it?
No, you can MIG, TIG, and stick weld stainless. It just, you have to have, depending on how thin it is, it's hard to find the certain rods that you would need for thin stainless.
Right. So it's still delicate though, because what I was talking about would be pretty delicate. Like I know I can solder this copper chain, but if I made it out of stainless,
Did you ever see there's it's a psychology thing, and they'll come out with a jar and they'll fill it full of golf balls, and then they ask if the golf balls are full, or if the jar is full, and then the students are always like, yeah, it's full, and then they come out with like pebbles or marbles, and then they'll say, well, is it full? They'll add all those, and then they'll say, is it full? And they'll say, yeah, and they talk about that. Well, if you're looking at steel and you're looking at stainless steel, what it is stainless steel is just black iron with chromium put in it.
right.
So the porous parts that you normally get in black iron are filled with chromium. Okay, it's not super hard. It's that it doesn't have the holes as much as black iron does. Like the makeup of the molecule is different once everything's mixed together. Now, if you take stainless steel and you heat it too much, you'll actually burn the chromium out of it, and it won't be stainless anymore.
Right, and that's what my thought about it was, if even if I did know how to weld it, it would, right there at the connection. It wouldn't be any different with solder though, but it would be discolored and everything.
Right.
Because I used to cut stainless steel all the time when I was at the junkyard, and it was like, "Yep, that's ruined."
Well, you can TIG weld or MIG weld. You can stick weld. It depends on if you can go that small with it. Now, MIG welding or TIG welding, it's the size. Like a TIG weld, you can get a really, 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 really small weld with a TIG weld really easily.
Right.
You're not.
But that would be the ideal application for what I'm talking about.
Right. My welder's got that set up. Now, if you were closer, you could just use my welder.
I'm working on it, brother. Snowy days like this are conducive to making me move. Although Olivia keeps saying she wants to go to school up here, so I don't know how that's going to work out.
She wants to go to school up there?
Well, we can move away, but I just always want to be as close to them as I can to help them out when they need help.
That's true.
But yeah, what do you think about that segment idea? What's it good for?
I like it.
Well, next time we do this, try to find a couple of things to find out what's it's good for. Like I said, I thought that mattress wire, because not the springs, but the wire around the outside edge.
Yes.
I think that could be good for some tooling ideas. Because I'm thinking about making a forge as well, and some long tongs or some hooks and stuff like that. I think it would be great for the hooks mostly.
Alex Steele, the one that you watched, he does he does a lot of tool making. That's where his base came in from originally.
Yeah.
So you can see a lot of different stuff from them. Now, are you thinking propane forge or charcoal?
I was thinking charcoal just to start out with. I would want to mess with some aluminum and then take it from there. I have this old water softener tank, and I thought it has the valve that comes into the top. If I cut that off, I could make the airflow come in from the bottom, and I could cut the top off the other end, and that could be the cap for it.
Is it metal?
Yeah.
It's worth a shot.
It's just like one of those ideas that was rambling around in my head.
Now, here's one for you. The airflow dryer, or like a hair dryer.
Yeah.
Perfect. You can put that in and repurpose a hair dryer for a blower. Now, you only have a high and a low setting.
Yeah.
But they do work well as a blower for a charcoal when you're starting off, so that way you can kind of get used to it, and then later on you can work with trying to get a fan that you can have different settings for.
Yeah, that brings me to another idea I had, but we're running out of time here. Well, I won't mention that now. I'll try to mention it later. But yeah, a lot of I've been thinking about doing a forge for a long time, just because I want to melt down some metals and pour them, and make molds and stuff like that, because it's more of an artistic endeavor.
See, I'd like to do some casting. I really would. I like casting. That's the whole reason why I would like to have a forge is casting.
Yeah, what led me to that was back when I was doing tattooing and building tattoo machines and everything. There was a lot of poured frame casting and stuff like that, but I never got into it.
See, I would want a mold that I didn't have to redo every time. That's one thing with casting is you run into a lot of casting metals. You run into doing sand
Yeah, the
molds.
sand casting. I've seen a lot of people pour molds with silicone molds.
Really?
Yes. I
I'm
mean,
gonna have to look some more into that.
I'm pretty sure I've seen people pour molds in. What did I say? Silicone Brotnism. Oh, I got this wrote down in my notes. Do you have use for a laundry sink? Do you need one or do you have one?
A laundry sink.
Yeah,
How large?
it's one of the big square plastic ones.
Yes, I've been wanting one.
All right, I've got one for you because when I was dumpster diving the other day, that came in. I think it even has a faucet with it. It might be short some legs though.
That's fine. I can always repurpose something and make some legs.
And I also have a double paned window. I don't know the size, but I'll get back with you. I got that out of the garbage too. I mean, it's a new window. I mean, newer.
Is it vinyl?
I think it's metal. I think it's aluminum.
Send me some pictures.
I will. I'll get the dimensions, but I wanted to ask you about it because I'm trying to
Yeah.
clean up the junk around here a little bit, and I thought I'd ask you about this.
If you clean up, then you can't be junk pile.
It's never going to happen, brother. It's never going to happen. I have this sickness called dumpster dive-ism. If I see something in the trash, I got to pull it out. But yeah, I seen that and I thought maybe you could use it. I could use some, but I don't have any water in my garage and there's no room for anything in there right now either.
Yeah.
I'll send you some pictures of it.
Send me some pictures of it. So any other points that you need to cover?
There's a few, but I'm going to have to cut it short because I got a busy day today.
All right. So we'll cover more on the next episode of Making Fun.
You're such a professional.
Don't forget to like and subscribe and join us on the next episode.
All right. Thanks, man.
See you, buddy.